I need to talk about Rust. It's a game which I have such a complicated relationship with because I picked it up in a Steam sale years ago. And I think for the first 2 years of it sitting in my Steam library, it was not opened once. And then I finally tried it, and my initial reaction towards jumping into this hostile multiplayer world where it's extremely punishing was one of just discomfort and general disdain. And I quickly put the game down after probably a handful of hours. And it wasn't till I tried it again a little while later that things finally started to click. Because at first glance, Rust, as I said, is a game which is so punishing and unforgiving. You know, you spend hours grinding for your gear in the early stages of a wipe, only to lose it through like a Chinese clan raiding you whilst you're offline, and you're back to square one. And in concept, that sounds deeply unfun. And it turns a lot of players away, but those who stay, myself included, I realized this, you find out that there is beauty in suffering. I think that's the phrase that best describes Rust, its core gameplay loop, and the community behind it. You know, once you accept that death and losing is part of the game, the true potential really begins to actually open up. You know, you stop being afraid of losing everything that you've worked for and instead embrace it. Take the front foot and you start to really have fun. Take the front foot to other players. Be the person on top. That's really what Rust is in a lot of ways. It's a skirmish. It's a constant battle between who can get the leg up over the other with every person on the server. You know, and part of the reason I think Rust is so successful is a multitude of reasons, but so many games, particularly now, are defined by, you know, how many polygons are in an asset or a mesh, how incredible the graphical fidelity is, how good the lighting looks, and how good the art direction is. And I think these are all valid points in their own right and valid reasons to praise a game. But Rust completely embraces the opposite of that. You know, it's a game which looks serviceable at best. It's fine. But its graphics are a function over fidelity. You know, you can drag the settings down seriously low, which offers that flexibility for people even who are playing on potato PCs to really get in and have a good time. And with that in mind, it embraces that, but also focuses almost solely on the core gameplay loop and the gunplay within it, which I have to praise, because having core gameplay being fun and being really well put together and tightly made, a good example is something like Destiny, is what keeps players coming back, you know, even over a decade later. And that's probably the best example in my own personal experience, and Rust to an extent as well, because it's a core gameplay loop in terms of the guns, in terms of taking out other players in PvP, that is so good and rewards the best. And those who are the best at the gunplay are rewarded the most with that endorphin hit of finding all the incredible high-level loot. And that's really the core chase which keeps players coming back. You know, you look on Steam reviews of Rust, and they're all positively reviewed, but they say they hate the game, yet they can't stop coming back. And I would argue that that is exactly the reason why. And outside of that core gameplay loop, I think some of the main successes behind Rust's long-term staying power is the studio behind it in Face Punch, but also the core YouTube community around it. You know, I think Rust in a lot of ways is regarded more for its storytelling on the YouTube space than the actual players within it, because some of the best videos on YouTube are coming from these incredible hour and a half, 2 hour sagas of these incredible YouTubers, and I'm forgetting the names, but I'll put some of the videos on the screen here of these incredible stories that people have put together where, for example, I'm sure you've probably seen it, is the Parasites video, where essentially players hide in their own bases and leave them abandoned for other players to take over and then destroy them from within. It's absolutely genius storytelling, and it's all done within the flexible confines of what Rust can actually offer. And that's a testament to, as I mentioned, Face Punch, who over the years have really just continuously and relentlessly developed and cultivated a product into something that's so large scale now, and yet never lost sight of its original core principles. When I mentioned earlier about embracing the suffering, Rust has never lost sight of that. And I think the fact that they constantly update and add new features is important, but even more so, the fact that they actually listen to their community. So many developers who work on live service products and multiplayer games don't listen to their community and what the players actually want. They don't meet the fine line between the hardcore and the casuals, and instead focus on one or the other. You know, Destiny, as much as I love it, has been on both sides of that coin. Rust has always found that perfect middle ground and made the right changes to a game which needs constant evolution. You know, when you add new features over time, new guns, new mechanics, new areas, new parts of the map, everything in between, it requires even more balance and care within the core ecosystem of the gameplay. And that becomes even hard to manage. But I would argue that Face Punch have done a phenomenal job, and that's a testament to the constant, stable player count that it maintains years and years on. I don't even know how long it's been around for now, but it must be, you know, close to a decade, if not, you know, around that. I could be wrong. Someone will probably fact check that. But I've had so many good times with Rust, hundreds of hours on it now, and I still feel like I'm at square one, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I feel like most players will tell you that. Is you're never invincible. I think that's the beauty of it. If you are playing within the confines of the game, you're not using cheats, I mean, you know, you can always be toppled. It doesn't matter how many hours you have, how much skill you have, the resources at your disposal at that point in time during a wipe. You're never invincible. You can always be taken out. You know, door campers are a prevalent part of the game. You know, you can get a guy who is nothing but a Yoka pistol, which is like a small short range kind of shotgun blast. You can take out a full gear player with that almost instantly, with enough timing and with enough luck. And again, that always comes down to what I just mentioned at the start of the video, where there is beauty in suffering. That's exactly what Rust represents to me, and I think to so many other people. And if you haven't played it, I'd urge you to give it a try, and then give it a try again if you didn't resonate with it the first time around, because I did, and it opened my eye to a whole world of fun and, you know, a lot of rage, but a lot of fun. And I think that's what Rust is about. Yeah, I'm tempted to get back into after seeing another update drop only recently, but I thought I'd talk about it today because it's a game that holds a lot of memories in my heart. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, listening to me ramble. Like and subscribe if you want more of these conversations, authentic, raw, stripped back rambles about the games I love, and I'm sure that you do too. Thank you so much for watching again, and I will see you on the next one. Have a good one, people.